I grabbed my coat and my heart and soul shoes and walk among the groups of two. It's not ideal, it's just how we feel. It's a shame we're easily amused. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Cast a stone and hit a hardcore view. Catchphrase of the day is that it's true. There's no coffee talk and only one way to please. It's a shame what you do moves me. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Yeah, not looking for a windswept view. Our change has changed. Nothing's new. Right on new song. Mad news. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. If I could know what would do wrong, I'd take this smile. The only cure for this forward motion is this smile. The only cure for this forward motion is this smile. The only cure for this forward motion.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Rebellious 1776. My name is Lynn Hurley. That is Osara bin Laden in the background. Can you hear that? All that noise? That comes from one little kitten. But Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today. We are going to have a little bit different of an episode today because we are not watching a hearing, but we are going to talk about. Can't hear me? You can't hear me? Can anybody else hear me? Dave Hurley says he can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? Your audio is fine, though. Well, that is very confusing. Audio's fine. Audio's fine. Oh, the cat. Okay, the cat. Got you. Okay. That made me very confused. Clearly, that made me very confused. Gotcha. Okay. Yay. All right. Cool. You guys can hear me. I was like really stumped for a second there because all of the normal things that happen when I forget to unmute myself. There are two spots. It's not complicated. And I still manage to screw it up sometimes. And they were both fine. So I was very confused for a moment, but we're all good. We're all good. It's wonderful. Okay. Today we are going to talk about, the title says Chinese immigrants invading US military bases, and we are going to start there. But we're really going to talk a lot about how the Chinese are infiltrating the US, just the US in general. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard about the Chinese buying up farmland and a lot of that being near military bases. We've all talked about that. But today we're going to talk about a couple of other things that we haven't really discussed yet. So, why don't we get right into that? Because, well, these open borders have caused a lot of problems just in general. We already know that. And a lot of different people from different areas of the world, potential terrorists, can just kind of walk right through the border as it is right now. But one of the highest numbers in terms of these groups of immigrants have been Chinese migrants. So, why is that, right? Why is that? Let's take a look at sort of what's just going on with the Chinese and the US, because there's a lot. There is a lot. All right, let me get this up here and we are going to start. You know what? Let me do that. I think that might be better. We're going to start here. This is a Fox News article, but you can find this everywhere. Border agents apprehend 182 Chinese citizens who crossed into the U.S. illegally in a key sector. And this was April 3rd. So this was yesterday. U.S. Border Patrol agents apprehended 182 Chinese citizens who crossed illegally into the U.S. through a key sector of the southern border on Tuesday, Fox News has learned. Though maybe we'll do another episode on the northern border because people are coming through there as well now. The Chinese nationals were caught after crossing into San Diego. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection source told Fox News, which has seen large numbers of Chinese migrants in recent months. More than 22,000 Chinese nationals have been apprehended by the Border Patrol since October 1st. 22,000 just since October 1st. And then they got a group of Chinese migrants here. And look at this. Look at this. Mostly men. We got a few women. Like I can see maybe 3 women in this group. Granted, we can't see the faces on some of them, but looks like the majority of it are men. The number of Chinese citizens arrested after crossing illegally has dramatically increased in recent years from 342 in 2021 to 22,233 since October 1st, the beginning of the 2024 fiscal year. So just in the beginning of the fiscal year, there have been 22,000, whereas in all of 2021, it was 342. Fiscal year 2022 saw 1,987 arrests. And then in fiscal year 2023, it jumped up to 24,125. And fiscal year 2024 is already at 22,233. Dramatic increases. Like, We went from 342 to 1987 to 24,000. So 24,000. Yeah, that is 5,000 more than the year before. And then the beginning of this year, since October 1st, so in the last, let's see, last 6 months or so, 22,000. So if it keeps at that pace, we're at 44,000 for this year. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. The number of Chinese migrants being encountered in the San Diego sector is exceeding that of Mexican citizens, according to CPD data. Since October, the number of Chinese migrants encountered by border authorities is second only to Colombia, which is 28,000. Third is Mexican nationals with 18,000, followed by Brazil, 8,700, and Ecuador, 7,700. Here, let's just take a little peek at this and see what they have to say. Hopefully there's not a...
You're looking live at the Fox News flight team over Chinese migrants trying to cross the southern border illegally. Griff Jenkins is live in Jacumba, California with the latest. Griff, what are you seeing down there?
I'm seeing a lot of migrants, Jason, and let me tell you, to put into perspective just how many Chinese are coming across the border, particularly in the San Diego area, in all of 2021, 450 total Chinese migrants across the entire border. This year, more than 20,000 in the last 4 months since the fiscal year began. Let me show you, though, they're not just from China. They're also from other countries like Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, but there are an influx of Chinese migrants. In fact, I mentioned that 450 number. In the past 3 days, we've eclipsed that number of migrants. These migrants here in Jacumba, 60 miles east of San Diego, are waiting to be processed. Many of them will be released, but it's the national security aspect, particularly of the Chinese migrants, that concerns the officials because of the vetting process and knowing who they are. And the fact that we have so many that are single adult males. Now, if I just spin you around here 1 second this way, Thomas, you can see they're lining up the families and the women and children that'll go first when the vans come. But the vans are overloaded because so many migrants are coming, so they have to wait hours. And in fact, some of these migrants might even have to spend the night, depending on how many vans they have. We spoke to one Chinese migrant man, though, Jason, and I asked him why exactly it is that he's come to the U.S. The answer may shock you. Listen here. Why did you come?
Take money.
Money
Yeah,
for job?
yeah.
There's no job in China.
Take your money, he said.
Maybe, I don't know.
And what's so fascinating, because we've been covering this for more than 2 years, it was a heavy surge in Texas, but it's now come out west, Arizona, and here in the San Diego sector, particularly of the 20,000 I mentioned that came here, they have had more than 90% of Chinese migrants coming to this area, particularly in Jacumba. And that is a situation they're having to deal with. Along with last week, they had more than 73 different countries. I don't know what we've got this week, but it's definitely off the charts. Jason?
Griff, thank you as always.
Okay, let me get that back.
Stunning numbers.
Go back down. There we go. Okay. Some Chinese migrants have expressed support for President Biden. Oh, I'm sure they have. Who has been criticized by Republicans for reversing Trump-era border policies, but others are indifferent. One migrant who spoke with Fox News said he picked up tips on the arduous journey from Chinese social media apps. He said he collected information from online sources to learn how to make it to the U.S., including information about routes, border navigation, and ways to dispose of information to avoid having your origin traced. Now, why would you need to dispose of information to avoid having your origin traced? I mean, if these are asylum seekers, why would they be worried about the U.S. knowing where they're coming from? Unless, of course, they have something to hide. No matter whether it is Trump or Biden, we just want to come to the United States, he said. I'm not worried about my legal identity problem, because as long as we arrive in the United States, there will always be a way to solve the identity problem. We want to go to the United States mainly for our children and give them a better future, which is interesting considering most of them didn't have children, even in that. So what is their identity problem that they're talking about? I'm not sure. This is going to something else. Um, I mean, do you guys buy it? Do you believe that they are here to find a better life? Do you think so? I mean, it's possible. It's possible, right? I mean, the Chinese people certainly don't have it easy. But I find it interesting that so many of them are able to escape the country when there's been a lockdown for quite some time there. I don't know if it's still going on, but it's interesting that so many Chinese citizens have been so easily able to escape the country. I like capitalism, but I also like regulation. Money, unchecked, rampant corruption, capitalism done by corrupt business owners. Well, part of it is to the government interference in the economy. If you allowed it to be a free market, what it is supposed to be, it would regulate itself to a certain extent. NGOs are telling them to do that with background checks. CCP party card, no doubt. Very possible. That is very, very possible. And, I'm sure you guys have heard about, let me see, I thought I had, hold on a second. I had a bunch of different ones and I might have got rid of one of them, but there was hold on, because I want to find this. Um, a Chinese migrant, um, that, according to him, if I remember correctly, like just oops, accidentally entered a military base. Um, like how does that happen? All right. I think this is the story that I'm thinking of. So let me pull this up for you now. Um, where'd it go? There we go. Okay. Chinese illegal immigrant arrested after driving onto military base in California. A top Border Patrol official said the case is still being investigated. I still find it interesting. These Chinese illegal immigrants, or just illegal immigrants in general, are driving around. Do they have driver's licenses? Do they have are they valid, legally able to drive around in the country? I don't know. I mean, maybe if you have a driver's license in another country, does that enable you to drive in the US? I don't know. A Chinese illegal immigrant was arrested in California on Wednesday. So this was written March 30th. So this was a little bit less than a week ago. Although if it was on Wednesday, it was about a week ago. After entering a Marine Corps base without authorization and ignoring orders to leave, officials say. That's pretty ballsy to go onto a Marine base without authorization and ignoring orders to leave. Border Patrol's El Centro Sector's Chief Patrol Agent Gregory Bovino said that agents responded to a call from the base about a Chinese national who entered the base without authorization, ignoring orders to leave. A spokesperson for the U.S. Marine Corps Training and Education Command told Fox News Digital that the individual had attempted to access the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center in 29 Palms, California, without valid ID. And this is the fella right here. Why they have the little tiny bar, like sensor bar, really? Despite being like, we're not going to know what he looks like because this much of his eyes is blocked out. Come on. Despite being prompted to exit at the Condor Gate by installation security, the individual proceeded onto the installation without authorization. If he were an American, he would have been in custody. Military law enforcement were immediately notified and detained the individual. The base then contacted Customs and Border Protection, and he was then taken into custody. CPB said that Border Patrol agents had responded to a report of a suspected Chinese national who had driven onto the base without authorization. The agents arrived and determined that the man was a Chinese national who was illegally present in the U.S. Clearly here to make a better life for himself. Subject was confirmed to be in the country illegally. Bovino said on X, formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, we know. His purpose and intent behind his actions are still being investigated. Oh, I wonder what that could be. Why could he possibly be going onto a base and looking for, what was he looking for? The attempting to access the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center? Oh, what could possibly be his motivation here? There have been more than 22,000 encounters of Chinese nationals at the southern border since October 1st, a massive increase. So we went through all of that, though their numbers are slightly different, but somewhat similar. China is more than 150 countries represented among migrants arriving at the southern border. Some officials and Republican lawmakers have raised concern that single adults entering from the geopolitical foe could pose a national security threat. Well, that's, yeah, what a leap. There have been numerous documented instances of Chinese nationals at the direction of the CCP engaging in espionage, stealing military and economic secrets, a group of Republican senators warned last year. They said that among those crossing the border could be individuals who could engage in espionage activities or cyber attacks against our critical infrastructure, government agency, or private sector entities. Other migrants, however, have told Fox they are just here trying to make a better life for themselves and their families. My English is not very good, and I don't know anyone in the United States, one migrant said this month. Once I get to the United States, I know I have to start all over again, but I want to live a good life in the future, and I want my children to be educated well. I strive to take root in the United States as soon as possible. I mean, you probably get a better education over in China. I mean, indoctrinated, yes, but you get that here too. CPB said on Friday that it does not comment on sensitive law enforcement matters, but works closely with law enforcement, intelligence, and federal partners to identify those who may pose a threat to national security or public safety. The agency stressed that it is enforcing consequences for those who enter the U.S. illegally. So I wonder, what are the consequences for this guy? DHS continues to enforce United States immigration laws. That is laughable right there. That quote is an outright lie. How are they enforcing United States immigration laws? Expanding lawful pathways. Well, they're expanding unlawful pathways while strengthening enforced consequences for those who cross our border unlawfully. That whole sentence right there is just a bunch of bullshit. It really is. Individuals and families without a legal basis to remain in the U.S. are subject to removal pursuant to Title VIII authorities and are subject to a 5-year minimum bar on reapplying for admission and potential criminal prosecution if they subsequently re-enter without authorization. Isn't that funny? Because we hear stories. I mean, we just heard, wasn't it the guy who shot the police officer in New York? Didn't he cross like 7 times? So if there's a 5-year minimum or 5-year bar in criminal prosecution, if they subsequently re-enter, why wasn't that guy in prison? Clearly, there is no criminal prosecution. It's kind of like, you better not do it again, or else. CPB is leveraging all available resources and partnerships to efficiently vet and process migrants consistent with the law. Except the problem is, do we actually have access to, say, Chinese criminal records? I'm sure we don't. So how can you accurately vet someone if you don't have access to criminal records from in their country of origin? How could you possibly vet someone that way? It makes no sense. Snoop saying illegals driving around Columbus did not have a driver's license. Oh, I'm sure they probably didn't. I'm sure most of them probably don't. They are tossed out of China and probably dropped south of the border, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I have heard that China is flying them over, that they are flying groups of people over and giving them instructions on how to get into the southern border. Why? Because it's so easy to get into. That's why. That's why. How did he get through the checkpoint that is blocked by Barcross Road? You mean on the base? Well, when you go onto a military base, at least this is how it used to be. When I lived there, you just have to stop at the gate and they check your ID. I think maybe some of them have the little bar thing. I don't know if they all do. But usually if the guard is there, a lot of times they have that up. At least they used to, unless they've changed it, which they possibly have. The illegal that was arrested here was in Columbus. Here in Columbus for murder had a long criminal record. Most of them do, yeah, because these countries are literally emptying out their prisons and sending them here. Venezuela has the lowest crime that it's had in I don't know how long because they're sending their criminals here. And we're just taking them in. Biden thinks it's wonderful. My county is now a sanctuary. The country is too, but yikes. Ugh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, base guards are armed. They are. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't shoot at the guy, honestly. There might have been a lot of other people around and perhaps they couldn't and had to make a judgment call, but oh yeah, MPs don't mess around. They 100% do not. So I'm surprised that the guy got as far as he did. But like I said, maybe there were a lot of people around and they just didn't want to take the risk of shooting someone else. But yeah, normally I don't think MPs would have any problem shooting someone coming on the base illegally. All right. So that was the first one that I think I had gotten rid of. But here is another one that I hadn't heard of yet. And I wanted to share with you guys. Where is it? Hold on 2 seconds. Sorry. I have a bunch of different tabs, so I'm trying to make sure that I get to the right one. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. It's really small on StreamYard, so it's hard to see, at least from my perspective. Yeah. Okay, there we go. All right, here we go. And this is from the Daily Mail, which I know, but this is actually an accurate article. And we will get into another one that talks about this as well. New Chinese migrants are sneaking onto Guam. Top Republican warns Communist Party wants to exploit every part of the U.S. map and warns critical American base is vulnerable, and Guam is a critical American base. A growing number of Chinese nationals have been sneaking in from the northern Marina Islands into Guam. Guam's Homeland Security Agency reported 118 unlawful or attempted unlawful entries by Chinese citizens since 2022. Oh, let's everyone cross your fingers that Guam doesn't capsize, as Hank was talking about in Congress. That makes the U.S. territory hosting 20,000 susceptible to CCP influence. This is crazy. There are rising concerns that the Chinese Communist Party is infiltrating the United States' sensitive military site in Guam, where over 20,000 troops are stationed. A growing number of Chinese nationals have been sneaking in from the northern Mariana Islands into Guam, which makes the U.S. territory susceptible to CCP influence. Guam is the location of the Navy's only submarine base in the Western Pacific, which obviously is, is going to be crucial in dealing with China. It also hosts a strategically important air base with bombers and fighter jets. The island's Homeland Security Agency has reported 118 unlawful or attempted unlawful entries by Chinese citizens since 2022. The number peaked at 85 in 2022, followed by 27 in 2023, and 6 so far in 2024, according to Stars and Stripes, which is the military news. Well, it used to be a newspaper. I'm sure it's online now. Count on the Chinese Communist Party to exploit every potential vulnerability on the map. What the CCP is doing in Guam is almost certainly no exception, House Homeland Security Mark Green from Tennessee told the Daily Mail. So here is the map. You can see Guam is pretty close to China. I mean, certainly a lot closer than mainland US is. These are just the soldiers on the Air Force Base. It's beautiful there. Look at that. The United States maintains a significant military presence on the island, a vital outpost for helping America defend. Oh my gosh, these little pop-up things are driving me crazy. I'm going to assume that it says like defend vital assets in the region. He added that the surging number of Chinese nationals coming into Guam should be a major cause of concern, in part because we simply don't know what purpose these individuals are coming here for. I think they know. I think they kind of think they know. Green blames the Biden administration for allowing the CCP to sense weakness and then take advantage of the situation. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Only a Democrat can think an island could tip over. Oh, Hank. Hank is one of a kind. Democrat or Republican, he's one of a kind. um, let's see. It's not just rising numbers of Chinese nationals illegally crossing our southwest border that demands attention. What's happening in Guam does as well. Absolutely. I mean, Guam is a U.S. territory, and it is a crucial um, point in the Pacific as far as military advantage goes. So this is something that 100% should be very concerning to people. Chinese migrants using the border to stupid. How do I get rid of this thing? It's driving me crazy. There we go. Chinese migrants using the border to gain entry are the fastest growing group being smuggled in from Mexico. We know that. Green told the Daily Mail there have been over 17,800 Chinese nationals released into the U.S. from January through September after they came across the southern border, in addition to illegal migrants streaming onto the island. Daily Mail previously reported on the loophole that allows Chinese nationals to spy on U.S. military installations in Guam. And we're going to get into that a little bit. In 2019, the U.S. Customs Border Protection enacted a policy to allow Chinese nationals to visit the Northern Mariana Islands for 14 days without a visa. Without a visa. From there, many have been reported to charter boats to Guam in order to get information on sensitive U.S. military sites. Guam Customs and Quarantine spokeswoman Alana, I don't even know, Newsweek told Newsweek that the agency stops unlawful arrivals to the territory. The migrants often prevent harm in a variety of areas, including military intelligence and reconnaissance, terrorism, communicable diseases, human trafficking for slave labor, prostitution and illegal gambling, cheap undocumented labor, the movement of illicit drugs, and other illegal activities that pose a threat to the quality of life in Guam and are of equal concern to our island, said the statement. Said the statement to Newsweek. That's a very weirdly worded thing. The ongoing visa loophole is a major concern to top leaders in the Senate as well. And this is an aerial view of the U.S. naval base in Guam. It is beautiful there. Senator Joni Ernst, Republican from Iowa, previously told Daily Mail that the visa loophole allows spies to take a hard look at what the U.S. is doing militarily in Guam and then use that against us. We're trying to close these loopholes. I think it's just very, very important that we do this, said Ernst, who sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Ernst and Rep. Neil Dunn, Republican from Florida, wrote a letter to the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, slamming the policy, which the administration has said provides a significant economic boost for the small island. And I believe, let's see. Do I have that letter? No, I don't have that letter. Okay. I have it with the next article talks about another letter. You know, what the government is good at doing, or the Congress is good at doing, is writing letters. Okay, hold on just a second. Here we go. sure that looks okay. Okay. So this is law enforcement today. Are CCP agents and Chinese nationals gathering intelligence on U.S. military installations in Guam now? And this was written March 31st, 2024, so 5 days ago. Top Republican lawmakers have expressed concern. Oh my God, I can't talk. Have expressed growing concerns over a visa loophole that potentially allows Chinese nationals to gather intelligence on U.S. military installations in Guam, a U.S. territory located in the Western Pacific. In 2019, the Biden administration enacted a policy allowing Chinese nationals 2019, Trump was president. Am I losing my mind? How could it have been the Biden administration? Okay, maybe that's just a typo. Maybe they meant to say the Trump administration enacted a policy allowing Chinese nationals to visit the Northern Mariana Island for 14 days without a visa. Since then, there has been a notable increase in the number of Chinese nationals reported to have chartered boats from the Northern Mariana Islands to Guam, raising alarms about potential espionage activities targeting sensitive U.S. military sites on the island. So I wonder if they're doing something similar to what the guy did in California, who just kind of came onto the base. I don't know. Now, I don't know how much, if the base is fairly open in Guam, it might be. It might be fairly open, but I mean, I imagine there is some security, especially in certain more sensitive areas, but some of it might be a little more open than your typical base. Guam's Homeland Security Agency has reported 118 unlawful or attempted unlawful entries by Chinese citizens since 2022. This influx of unauthorized entries has heightened concerns about the vulnerability of Guam, which hosts the Navy's only submarine base in the Western Pacific and a strategically important base with bombers and fighter jets. Senator Joni Ernst, a prominent Republican lawmaker who sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee, along with Rep. Dunn, has taken action to address these concerns. They wrote a letter, these congressional letters, to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandra Mayorkas, urging the administration to reconsider the visa policy and close the existing loopholes that allow unauthorized access to sensitive military installations. We're trying to close these loopholes. I think it's just very, very important that we do this, said Ernst. The concerns raised by Ernst and other lawmakers comes at a time when public sentiment regarding China's influence on the U.S. national security is at a heightened state. Yes, there's a reason for that, because they are infiltrating the United States completely under our noses. A survey released during the annual Reagan National Defense Forum revealed that 51% of Americans consider China to be the greatest threat to the U.S. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you consider China to be the greatest threat to the U.S.? I don't know if it's the greatest threat, but it's certainly on par. I'd say my top two are Iran and China. And I know a lot of people would add Russia in there, and I think currently Russia is a threat, but I also think Russia is a country that would be willing to compromise a little bit and willing to join forces, so to speak, with the U.S. under the right terms, because they've done it before. And I think they would probably be willing to do it again. Putin is really, he's a really good businessman. And I think if he thought it was beneficial for Russia to join with the US, I think he would do that. I don't think he has an ideological issue with the US, whereas China and Iran both do. Two different things, right? China is a communist country. Iran is, China, I think China identifies itself as a socialist country, but with a communist government. But anyways, specifics. We'll just say communist because that's what everybody thinks of. They're a communist country, and Iran has a lot of the sort of extremist Muslim terrorist groups that certainly have an ideological issue with not just the US, but a lot of Christian countries. So to me, they are both a bigger threat than Russia is. China steals every idea. China is new, greater. They were released from British colonization in 1997. Yeah. Um, oh, hey, Christopher. We went to a West Point football game last fall. We had a full background check done to get onto post. Wow, sure was tight security here. Well, that's good. Apparently, the Chinese immigrants are just going on to the base, saying, "I'm looking for the whatever it is they want to," and they're not getting shot, which is amazing to me. But I guess, I don't want to go around just shooting people. Should. Maybe that would be a good deterrent. Just saying. The sentiment underscores the growing apprehension among policymakers and the general public about China's expanding global influence, both economically and militarily. Furthermore, Congress is currently engaged in negotiations over the National Defense Authorization Act, a critical piece of legislation that sets the defense budget and policy priorities for the U.S. military. Discussions have been focused on stripping out woke policies introduced by the Biden Department of Defense, which some lawmakers argue are distracting from core national security objectives 100%. Woke policies is a very nice way of saying Marxist ideologies. That's what they're actually putting into the military right now, are these very Marxist ideologies under the guise of DEI. Rep. Adam Smith, the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, has echoed earnest concerns about the potential impact of these policies on military readiness and effectiveness. And in fact, the military is having a recruitment problem. There are less and less people joining the military, and I can see why. And I'm a big supporter of the military, but I think those are the wrong type of policies and certainly the wrong type of ideology to be putting into our military. The visa policy loopholes, internal congressional disputes over military promotions, and public concern about China's influence on U.S. national security present challenges for policymakers. As Congress continues to discuss these issues, bipartisan cooperation and constructive dialogue are important to address the implications for the U.S. military and its operations in the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. You know what? That's probably very true. However, the Democrats need to get over their progressive liberal agenda by putting these Marxist ideologies and the importance that they place on that in the military. Count on the Chinese Communist Party to exploit every potential vulnerability on the map. And we're giving them plenty right now. What the CCP is doing in Guam is almost certainly no exception. House Homeland Security Chairman Mark Green said the United States maintains a significant military presence on the island, a vital outpost for helping America defend our strategic interests in the region. Green noted the surging number of Chinese nationals coming into Guam should raise major cause for concern, in part because we simply don't know what the purposes of them coming are. I would argue, yeah, we do. Yes, we do. He's just not wanting to say that publicly for whatever reason. Green squarely places the blame on the Biden administration, alleging that its policies have allowed the CCP to sense weakness, subsequently take advantage of the situation. It's not just the rising number of Chinese nationals illegally crossing our southern border that demands attention. What's happening in Guam does as well. 100%. Let me see. Okay, yeah. So this is the letter. Okay, let me just double check. That switched over. Okay. Marxists have to go. Yes. Okay, so this is, I'm not sure if it's the letter that they referenced in that particular article, but it is a similar letter about these. They're called B1 and B2 visas. And so this is Congressman Dunn calls for a B1, B2 visa requirement in the Northern Mariana. I keep wanting to call that Mariana Islands. Congressman Neil Dunn sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to express concerns about the United States visa policy for Chinese nationals entering the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands. The Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands is the only U.S. territory that does not require a visa for Chinese nationals to enter. You would think every U.S. territory would require a visa for a Chinese national to enter. Current statute allows Chinese nationals to enter the island for 14 days visa free. That's a long time, 2 weeks. Law enforcement does an exceptional job capturing those who come to the island with ill intent. However, we must implement the requirement of a B1, B2 visa to enter the CMNI to successfully deter the Chinese Communist Party's aggression and transnational repression. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we're making it easier for Chinese nationals to go in with what do they call it? The CMNI, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, which is right next to Guam, Guam is a part of, I believe. Um, yeah, why are we making it easy for them? Why are we letting them come without a visa? It's important to help protect the people of CNMI, and a thoughtful B1, B2 visa policy is part of the common sense effort to preserve safety throughout the Indo-Pacific. Thank you to Congressman Dunn for his ongoing work on the Pacific security issues. Guam and the CNMI are once again targets of China's attempts to gain an edge over the United States. A large number of Chinese citizens enter Guam's shores illegally, often arriving in small boats from our neighboring islands. This poses a serious threat to the security of my island and to the United States of America. We must take action to safeguard our national security and make it harder for unauthorized visitors to infiltrate the Northern Mariana Islands. I want to thank Congressman Neil Dunn for advocating for our cause and pushing for a B1, B2 visa requirement, said Congressman Jim Moylan from Guam. I didn't realize we had a congressman from Guam. That's kind of cool. As mentioned in the letter, four companies in Guam were issued sanctions for using illegal labor from China this year. Chinese citizens were caught entering Saipan and then using messaging apps, just like the guy said they're using to get here, to coordinate illegal jobs and illegal boat rides to Guam, which is home to highly strategic U.S. military installations. Moreover, just last month, the Department of Justice prosecuted a case in which 2 Chinese nationals using the United States Postal Service for the distribution of methamphetamine and CNMI were sentenced to prison. I mean, come on. That is crazy. In one of the hearings we watched, a representative from Guam did ask, oh, did they? I don't remember that. That's pretty cool. I did not realize that. We learn something new every day, don't we? Speaker of the House has sent impeachment proceedings to the Senate, or is sending this coming week. Yeah, this coming week. I think he said by Wednesday of this coming week that he was going to send it. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I really don't. It just doesn't have the backing in the Senate. So I wouldn't expect too much from it, unfortunately. All right. So China coming into our military bases, coming onto Guam. What else are they doing? What else are they doing? Well, have you heard about this from Business Insider? Well, a lot of people have reported on it. But could China be spying on U.S. ports using secret tech built into cranes? Have you heard about this? Secret tech built into cranes. You know, if that doesn't make you realize that they're spying on us in every possible way, that they're now using secret tech in cranes to spy on the U.S., I mean, that's just craziness. It's just craziness. All right, let's read about it. Chinese cranes used at U.S. ports were installed with communication equipment that could be used for espionage, according to a congressional investigation reported by the Wall Street Journal. More than 12 cellular modems that could be used remotely were found in Chinese-made cranes, unnamed aides told the journal. Some of the cranes were built by Shanghai Zhenhao Heavy Industries, I don't know, a state-owned Chinese manufacturer which has been widely viewed in the US as posing a security risk. Several of the modems were used for operational functions for the cranes, such as the ability to monitor and track maintenance remotely, the journal reported. However, some US ports using the ZPMC built cranes hadn't requested these functions, according to the investigators and documents obtained by the journal. One port told lawmakers in December that it knew of the modem's existence, but it didn't know what they were used for, the outlet said. Tennessee politician, once again, Mr. Mark Green, told the Journal he believes China to be a major threat to U.S. security. Yes. Green, chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee, which has been investigating Chinese maritime security threats, said China is looking for every opportunity to collect valuable intelligence and position themselves to exploit vulnerabilities by systematically burrowing into America's critical infrastructure, including the maritime sector. So think about this. They're coming across our border. They're buying up farmland. Much of it is near military bases. The illegals who are crossing the border are apparently just driving onto military bases looking for very specific parts of the base. They're going into Guam. They're spying on us through TikTok. They are spying on us through cranes now. They are coming at us in the form of cyber warfare. Why aren't people more worked up about China? Like, why? To me, it sounds like we're already in a subversive war with them, except they're the only ones participating. What are we doing? I hope we're at least countering these with other things as well. But can you imagine? Do you think that we are sneaking into China and putting spy equipment into some of the technology that they use? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. Even Lulu is annoyed by it. Even Lulu's annoyed by it. Okay. Lou, stop. Well, here we go. And Mark Green, he agrees. The United States has clearly overlooked this threat for far too long, he added. Concerns have been building for years. Just under 80% of ship-to-shore cranes used in U.S. ports were made by ZPMC. 80% of our cranes have this monitoring ability. There have been public concerns over Chinese-owned cranes since at least 2021, when intelligence gathering equipment was discovered on a ship that was moving cranes into Baltimore, the Journal reported. Isn't that interesting? In Baltimore. So that begs the question, the malfunction that happened in Baltimore that took out the bridge and basically made it impossible to use one of our largest and busiest ports in the US. Was it really just a malfunction? The Biden administration announced in February that $20 billion will be invested into replacing foreign-built cranes with U.S. cranes over the next 5 years. By design, these cranes may be controlled, serviced, and programmed from remote locations. These features potentially leave PRC-manufactured cranes vulnerable to exploitation. Rear Admiral John C. Vaughn, head of the U.S. Coast Guard's Cyber Command, told Newsweek in February. A representative for the Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C., said in a statement that claims of Chinese-made cranes posing a security risk were entirely paranoia. Of course, that's what they're going to say. And that it was an abuse of national power to obstruct normal economic and trade cooperation, the Journal reported. Wow, he almost sounds like a Democrat. In a statement issued to its website in March 2023, ZPMC said that it always strictly complies with the laws and regulations of the countries it distributes to. Does it now? Meanwhile, the American Association of Port Authorities told the Journal that there had been no known security breaches involving Chinese cranes. Representatives for ZPMC, the Chinese embassy in the U.S., the U.S. government, and the U.S. Port Authority did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So, what do you guys think? We are yeah, we're busy buying their products. Absolutely. And yeah, and David Hurley's right. We are too fixated on Russia. And yes, American-made cranes must be better. 100%. Oh my goodness. Okay. So let me get over here again. I think what was the other? Mm, no, oh, what is that? I don't even know what that was. Oh, that was the one that I had just read. Okay, so this was another congressional letter. This was last year to, once again, Secretary Mayorkas. It's frightening how much this man is in charge of. The Committee on Homeland Security and the Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the U.S. and Chinese Communist Party are conducting oversight of the presence of Chinese software and operational technology in the U.S. port infrastructure. This includes software used for cranes, terminal industrial control systems, power systems, and telecommunications equipment. So, riddle me this. How was the U.S. able to say, within hours of the accident in Baltimore, that there was no evidence of foul play? How would they know that? Especially when it appears that Chinese software is used in much of the US port infrastructure and apparently in some of the boats as well. On April 3rd, 2023, members of the Committee of Homeland Security sent a letter. It was probably a very, very harshly worded letter, too, to DHS requesting a briefing on DHS's maritime port security responsibility. The letter, among other requests, asked for documents sufficient to show DHS's efforts to address security vulnerabilities related to the use of Chinese manufactured cranes at U.S. ports by April 17th, 2023. To date, however, shockingly, hold on to your hats, kids. DHS has failed to provide a briefing or documentation, and these requests remain outstanding. We seek your immediate compliance. Again, strongly worded. We remain concerned about the security risks associated with the widespread use of Chinese manufactured cranes that threaten to undermine our national security, particularly those made by Shanghai Zhenhao Heavy Industries, ZPMC, a Chinese state-owned state-owned business whose governing shareholder is China Communications Construction Company. Hold on, I'm going to make this bigger for myself. There we go. That's much better. We request additional information on the prevalence of such equipment and technology at U.S. ports and DHS actions to address the potential national security threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party's use of this technology in port infrastructure. So, do you guys think that with what happened in Baltimore, is the U.S. going to even consider that China had anything to do with it? How were they able to write it off so quickly? Do you think they will even address that in any way, shape, or form? I know, I think it's actually tomorrow. Let me double check. There are like 4 different, though, or maybe there's just 2 and they have it listed twice for each of them. There are hearings tomorrow, even though the House is off. Port Safety, Security, and Infrastructure Investment, the Committee on Homeland Security, and Port Safety, Security, and Infrastructure Investment, Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. I wonder if they're combined or if that's going to actually be 2 separate ones. It will be interesting to see. Let me see if I click on it, if it says anything about. Let me just look at one of the witness testimonies to see if they're going to even be looking at anything to do with China. Okay, I don't know what that is, but it's definitely not a witness testimony. Rear Admiral John C. Vann, he's one of the people. for cybersecurity. Okay, this is just like forms. It's very weird. Mario Diaz Balart, Admiral John Van, Rear Admiral Wayne Arguin, Mr. William Pape, Paape, Mr. James Fowler, Mr. Frederick Wong Jr., Mr. Brent Sadler, Mr. Ed McCarthy, Mr. Dave Morgan. There's panels. Let's see. What is this? Joint committee. Okay, yeah, so it is a joint committee. It doesn't give any info as to what exactly they're going to be looking into. See if the hearing record has anything. So it's 2 panels. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be addressing that at all. I don't know. What do you guys think? If it was a visible hardware issue, then they could write it off. Right. I heard that the Francis Scott Key Bridge was insured. Yeah, I believe it was too. Yeah, I mean, if it was visible hardware, like you're saying, like something was just literally mechanically wrong with it, or uh, something literally just went wrong. Let's just say mechanically for my brain. But would we be, I mean, I guess you'd have to maybe look into the code to see if it was hacked in some way. Is that correct? All my IT nerds out there. Um, like how would you be able to tell if it was indeed hacked by, say, the CCP and remotely accessed in order to create the problem, create the situation that it did? Because if you think about that, that is a really good way to disable a lot of the industry in the US is affect a large port, right? I mean, things as basic as like I think sugar comes through there. And there was a lot. I was watching this one news program where they were talking about it, and uh, it was I don't know if it was the mayor or somebody was talking about basically all of the things that sort of came through this port, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's really crazy. I had no idea it even existed, but I don't know if yeah. I mean, you'd probably it would I would imagine it would take some time if you had, we have some really good, I don't know if it would be a hacker or somebody who was there. I'm sure there's some sort of technical term for like forensic evaluation of cyber warfare or cyber influence, or I don't know the terminology. Clearly, I'm making things up. But I imagine that would take a little bit of time to because you would have to really dig through the code, wouldn't you? Where's my IT people out there? Is Nathan here? Is Chris here? They're the 2 IT people that I know that would know something about it. What is Snoop saying? There would be a time code in the new codes if something was tempered with their software. Right. But if it was already pre-programmed into the software, because say that software came from the CCP, so they already had remote access, would you then be able to go through the information in those computers to find out if they were remotely accessed and therefore sabotaged in some way, shape, or form? I don't know. I'm sure there is some way, I just don't know technically. So it'll be interesting to see what they're talking about tomorrow. Let me see what they have for the following week. If there's anything interesting. Oh, talking about the LNG export ban again on Monday, which is another ridiculous move on Biden's part. Nope, nothing on Tuesday about it. But I would think this would be something that they would really be looking into at this point in time, right? The Chinese Communist Party's malign influence at the United Nations is getting worse. There's a hearing on Wednesday about that. I mean, I wonder if they are going to address it tomorrow. It seems like it would be crazy for them not to address it, right? But then again, that's thinking logically about it. And Congress doesn't always work in logical terms. Um, I don't. Ooh, budget hearing, fiscal year 2025 request for the FBI. Ooh, that could be interesting. Hearing a review of the Defense Intelligence Enterprise's posture and capabilities in strategic competition and in synchronizing intelligence efforts to counter the People's Republic of China. Who came up with that title? A review of the Defense Intelligence Enterprise's posture and capabilities in strategic competition and in synchronizing intelligence efforts to counter the People's Republic of China. I can't even say it in one breath. Who came up with that title? Oh my goodness. That's really funny. All right, let's get back to this really quick. Let's see where we're at. As stated recently in Politico, President Joe Biden has committed multiple times to sending U.S. troops to Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion, something China would want to stop. This could include targeting the network of ports on the West Coast. But maybe East Coast, we wouldn't be looking for it as much. Airfields and other transportation networks that move troops. These transportation networks include our nation's ports. See? Pipelines and freight railways. I'm not saying that it 100% is. I'm just saying it should be something that we should be looking at, right? Given the security risks associated with extensive use of Chinese manufactured cranes that threaten to undermine our national security and assist the committee with their oversight of the operational technology in U.S. port infrastructure, please provide a full production in response. This must be the letter. They must have no, that was the letter from before. They must be quoting it. Anyway, okay. So that's that. So it'll be interesting to see if this sounds like a Democrat title. No, it would be a Republican, right? Because they are in charge of the chair is a Republican. So I'm pretty sure they come up with the subjects of the hearings. So it's probably a it's probably a congressional aide who, doesn't have much to do on a Friday night and, speaks in that same way, if you know what I mean. Like he's just a very kind of no nonsense, no frills, no fun sort of guy. He probably came up with it. McConnell's sister-in-law drove her Tesla into her own pond and drowned. I think her car was hacked. Was that recent? Wow, that's crazy. But I mean, that's the scary stuff, right? With there's a lot of really, really cool technology, but the problem is because it's all, it's all like everything has a computer in it now. Everything is able to be hacked. That's like, it's scary. The car was driven backwards too, that she drove. This happened several months ago. Oh, really? Wow, I didn't hear about that. That's crazy. So the car was driven backwards into her own pond and then she drowned. Was she not able to get out? I mean, I suppose you could probably, if you're going to hack it, you could remotely lock it as well. Man, that is craziness. Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right, we got one other thing to look at, guys. Let me pull this up really quick. This one right here. The Economist. What to make of China's massive cyber espionage campaign. And this was March 26th of this year. Oh, come on now. You're not going to let me read the whole story now? Oh, you stink. Well, let's just get an idea of the intro. When calling out China, Western governments sometimes like to stand together. On March 25th and 26th, America, Britain, and New Zealand. Do you mind? That's so incredibly rude, Lulu. did so in a coordinated blast against Chinese cyber espionage. American federal prosecutors accused China's cyber spooks of waging a campaign for years against a wide range of targets in the West, including critics of the Chinese Communist Party. Britain's deputy prime minister said China showed ongoing patterns of hostile activity targeting our collective democracies. New Zealand blamed state linked hackers in China for a cyber attack on the country's parliament. Um, and we're not going to be able to read the rest of it, but the more you look into China's influence in the US, the more you see they have literally infiltrated every aspect of our lives. Even Hollywood is the movie industry has to consider how the Chinese government will respond to certain things in the movies because there's such a huge market over in China that a lot of Hollywood film producers want to be able to show their movies over in China. And so they have to take a lot of things into consideration and basically run the movies by the Chinese government before putting it out to make sure there's nothing in there that offends the Chinese government. And so, of course, that means like needing to portray China in a positive light. I was watching a documentary about this, and they were talking about there was one movie, and I can't remember what it was. If Dave is watching this, maybe he remembers. Um, was it one with Tom Cruise in it where he was running on rooftops? Somebody was running on rooftops, but they originally had like laundry hanging out to dry on one of these rooftops over in China. And the Chinese government didn't like that because it portrayed that area of China as being poor, equaling in their minds weak. And so therefore they wanted the laundry hanging out to be removed from the scene. Like they get that specific over it. It's really crazy how much they have infiltrated things. Uh it might have been one of the Mission Impossibles, like Mission Impossible 3 or something, I think. Did that take place over in China? Anyway, yeah, it's really really crazy like how much they have infiltrated us. I mean, they're in food production. They are here in Ohio. There is a company that is one of the biggest it's a Chinese owned company that's one of the biggest producers of automobile glass. They there's they're in everything. So if we do go to war with China, we are screwed. We are screwed because they're already in here. They have already infiltrated the United States. They are here. Like it's Chris Martin and I were like chatting about it once, and I said, like, people don't even realize China's knocking at our back door. And he was like, knocking at our back door. They're standing in our living room and we don't even see them. And he's right. It is really crazy how much China has infiltrated, and this open border is only making it worse. It's just an open invitation for Chinese nationals. Just come on in, guys. Come on, come on. Ni hao, come on in. Like, welcome, welcome everyone. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And what can be done about it? Short of closing the border and deporting all of them, we're just going to be playing defense. And even then, with the laws they have in place now, even if you round up people, they still just release them back into the public. So what can you do? Are we screwed, guys? Are we just completely screwed at this point in time? Is it fixable? What do you think? Is it fixable at all? Esley says it's all part of the grand play Road to Agenda 2030. I don't know. I don't know what the Agenda 2030 is, but do you think, I know Donald Trump he's talking about coming in and just doing this huge, like massive deportation, which is great and needs to happen. And certainly the border needs to be shut down. But here's my concern, right? These terrorist organizations, and I'm not just talking China, they're all very well aware of what is going on with our elections. And if they see that Donald Trump is trending in the polls, do you think there's going to be a rush to get something done prior to the election? That's my concern. My concern is something's going to happen relatively soon because they can see Donald Trump is doing favorably. A lot of people are coming around, even a lot of Democrats are coming around and seeing like this is not working. This is terrible. And we need a change. And this administration is not doing anything for us. Don't get me wrong. There are still the completely groomed, brainwashed people out there who think that everything is hunky dory and Biden is amazing. And you know, it's like banging your head against a brick wall talking to those people. There's no point in talking to those people. But there are a lot of people, a lot of moderates are coming around and saying, like, it's not good. It's just not good. But I don't know. Snoop thinks it's fixable. I hope it is. I do. I hope it is. In Nebraska, one Democrat switched parties just a couple days ago. It was just one particular Democrat in Nebraska did. You're really in the know, Snoop. You know each Democrat individually. That's amazing. No, they are. They are coming around. Even a lot of actors. Okay, a lot is maybe generous, but you remember how Roseanne Barr used to be very liberal, and now she's totally 180. And she was at Mar-a-Lago the other day, hanging out with Carrie Lake, telling people, like, don't go to college. It's just going to indoctrinate you. Just give me a call, email, whatever, and I'll help you out. I was like, dang, girl, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, there are even Hollywood, which is very fiercely Democratic, there are people coming around. I think Michael Rappaport was another one that I heard was coming around as well. Esley says it's very fixable, but saying how gets us tossed in the dungeon. That's frightening, but true, right? Roseanne is the best. Oh my God. I started watching more stuff with her and I was like, oh my God, I think I'm in love. Like, this is amazing. She's amazing, which makes me really happy because I used to love watching the show Roseanne when it first came out. I mean, everybody did back then. Everybody did. Then she went a little kooky, and now she's like kooky, but on the right side of kooky. So I'm thrilled. I'm happy. So yeah, I was cracking up this morning. If any of you, sure you weren't, but if anybody was sitting there going, I wonder what Lynn's doing right now, I was watching Roseanne videos and cracking up and going, oh my God, I love this woman. So that's what was happening. All right, guys. Well, that is everything that I have for you, at least for now, on Chinese immigrants invading the U.S. or just China in general invading the U.S. Yeah, Michael Rappaport said he would never vote for anyone else but Trump now. Good for him. Yeah, a lot of Democrats are kind of coming around and hopefully seeing the light a little bit. So fingers crossed. Oh, sorry. Hopefully that wasn't super loud for you guys. But all right. That is it. Thank you. It is getting very strange. I agree. I agree. Strange in a good way or strange in a bad way? I guess it depends on what we're talking about exactly. But you know what? As long as we can all sit here and still talk about it, I guess there's always hope, right? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. We will just find out. It'll be a surprise. So keep your eyes and ears out. And I will see you then. And until then, Aggie Smalls, the patriotic chicken, is going to take you out. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Scattering leaves, the days shattering of youth. Promise our real lives not far behind. Leave nothing to chance and we will not find. Still I'd like to be here for a while. Try to make it all matter. Pave the way for the shattering of youth. Promise our real lives not far behind. Leave nothing to chance and we will not find. Still I'd like to be here for a while. Still I'd like to be here for a while. Scatteringly as the days go, dragging us along.